Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, may I have your attention, please? Are you ready to engage in a mind-blowing experience and hear talks about life, technology, entertainment, and business? The next episode of HIPTHER Talks starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hi everyone, Zoltan here from HIPTHER Talks. We are back, and today we are bringing some interesting perspective to the audience. I'm not going to spoil the surprise about what we're going to talk about because I had my special guest here today, Jin, is going to tell you more about it later. And as we unveil his awesome project with the questions. So, Jin, nice to see you. I have here with me Jin Gonzalez, founder of Oz.finance. And Jin, say a few words about yourself and your company.
Well, I've been in technology for the past 29 years, and I've had around 6 startups, 2 exits, and I headed the blockchain and digital asset initiative for one of the largest banks here in the Philippines for around 4.5 years. So under my wing was Philippine stablecoin, cross-border remittance, among many others. But after that was when I decided to start Oz. Now, Oz really is very much like it's very much a passion project for me. And one of the things that led me to it was disillusionment on where blockchain was headed, or at least how people were interpreting the technology. It's a wonderful technology. It's supposed to bring you the freedoms that it promised. But the unfortunate part was when I looked at it, it seemed like most people didn't really see that. You know, they were just interested in the financial gain, and all the greed just took over at some point, right? But I'm sure for you and for a lot in the audience, you know, if I were to ask you guys, what did you think of first time that you heard about? Or what did you feel? Is it that you'd be a billionaire, or is it that it would give you some form of freedom, right? I guess the question I have is, what struck you more? Was it what it could give you and what it could give humanity, or how rich it could make you? Right? In my case, it was what it could do in terms of granting me specific freedoms that I otherwise felt was unattainable, right? And that's what we're trying to solve. That's what we're trying to give in Oz. Back to who I am. I mean, I'm a banker for 5 years, and an entrepreneur for 20 some odd years. And technology has always been my passion, and but more of what it can bring than, you know, how cool it is or anything like that. It has to have some effect on humanity. And this is one project that we feel, you know, brings forward exactly what blockchain intended to.
Yeah, especially since blockchain is basically invented for the humanity.
Yeah.
And to give a certain freedom. This is a very special project, and I've read about it before preparing for this session. And I have to say it's very, very interesting. And I especially like the part with the special economic zones, the eco zones, which I'm going to ask you to say a few words about what is a special economic zone, an eco zone.
Yeah. So, unbeknownst to most people, there are around 5,400 special economic zones globally. So, what an eco zone is it functions as an entry point into mainstream economy of that country, right? So normally what they do is they give special incentives in the form of tax breaks and free entry and exit of goods that are going to be manufactured in the country. Different eco zones focus on different things. Some focus on technology, some focus on manufacturing and the like, right? But that said, these zones give freedoms that people in the blockchain and crypto community desire. But these freedoms and these benefits are normally given to large corporations or medium corporations or high net worth individuals, which you and I normally don't have access to, right? So what we did was we said, okay, is there a way with the use of capital, credit, and community, which is what we as a community are good at, right? We reached $3 trillion in market value. We're very good in providing credit, DeFi, for instance, and we're a large community of over 100 million people, right? All of which believe in certain freedoms that we have a right to receive and that we believe that we're fighting for. But these special economic zones need capital, credit, and community. So what we intend to do is provide that bridge between the community and these special economic zones to facilitate a trade where we as a community are now functioning as a sphere in order to receive those benefits. And we are communicating to these special economic zones, hey, we have capital, we have credit, community. Can you provide us privacy protection, regulatory cover, and tax-free living? And is there a way by which you can simplify the package so that all I need to do is stake tokens, and by staking it, I then receive these freedoms, right? So if I stake it for a specific amount, for a specific period of time, do I receive these freedoms by just submitting my KYC and processing my application, right? So what we did was we simplified the process. We scaled down the requirements, and we also expedited the processing to be able to make that happen.
All right. So basically, it's giving the freedom for many that are not corporate to benefit of this type of zero taxes, etc.
Yeah, I mean, look at it this way. Why are most people happy to use DeFi, right? Or they believe so much in DeFi. It's because there's this perception that it's anonymous. Any kind of profit I make, right, is my profit. Nobody's going to know that I'm making a profit, and I don't need to declare tax or pay tax, right? But that doesn't help me going mainstream in any way, shape, or form. What we've done is we've said, wait, you don't need to hide who you are. The truth is you can fully disclose everything about you, all your transactions, all your profit. You just need to be able to do it through or by registering under one of these special economic zones, right? So the question there is, how do you make that happen? Most people don't know how. What we've done is we've said, okay, all you got to do is just purchase a token, regardless of how much it is. All you have to do is just monitor the price or your total value of your holdings. Once it reaches $100,000 to $75,000, you can now stake it to receive residency and business operation in a tax-free environment.
All right. So how did you come up with this idea of creating this type of residency throughout staking tokens, etc.?
Yeah. Well, think about it. Is there any token that gives you the three freedoms of blockchain intended to? Privacy protection, regulatory cover, and tax-free living. And I couldn't find an answer to that. There's nothing that delivers on those three, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But it should, because that's what it said it would, right? So after what, 12 years, 13 years of immersing ourselves in the technology, people have hope that comes to you and that you're granted that, and hope has pushed the market to over $3 trillion without actually delivering on the promise. It sounds ridiculous, right? I mean, it's like, okay, you're freedoms that I intend to, I'm so hopeful it's going to be given. And at the end of the day, my question is it really delivered or not? So the question that we asked was, why? Is there a way by which this can happen? And if there is a way, as crazy as it seems, maybe we should do it. We should find a way to make it happen. And so this is our first execution. And what we see is that, when we initially introduced the product to the market, there were a lot of issues that it faced and a lot of challenges that it faced. First is the market didn't understand it. It's so weird because blockchain enthusiasts, the ones that got in, they're always asking, is it going to give me 10x? Is it going to give me 5x? Is it going to give me 100x? That's it, right? Yeah. Most people don't even bother finding out about the technology because it's so confusing, right? So they're getting into it based on hype, and they're hoping on getting out of it, right? And you can see what happened to the market just lately. What's the effect? So what we need to deliver is real value first, right? And when we showed this real values in front of them, most people were like, I don't understand it. How is that even possible that it delivers on that?
I'm here to make money. I'm here to invest. Exactly.
I'm here to make money, which it's actually structured to do. I mean, if you look at the way the tokenomics is structured, it is really built for extreme scarcity. I mean, imagine this, okay? First, look at Bitcoin, for instance, right? It took it around 12 years for it to be recognized by a country as a store of value and a means of exchange. And that country is what? El Salvador at 6.4 million people. In this case, the token is still going to be listed. Yep. And we've already been approved in 4 exchanges to be listed. So we're just scheduling it right now and timing it. But it's not even listed, and it grants you exactly what blockchain intended. And it's recognized now by a country which is 120 million people.
Yeah.
So it's 20 times the size of El Salvador, and it's there, and the value of which hasn't even been discovered yet. I mean, it's yet to be listed, right? Also, in terms of scarcity, all it takes is 240 people to purchase and stake $100,000 worth of the token in order to cut the supply in half. And the way we've done the tokenomics is 80% of the tokens that are released are strictly reserved for those that are going to have use for it. So effectively, on day one, this token is already at 80% scarcity.
Okay. Which is awesome, yeah.
And which is awesome, right? And if you have 58 million millionaires globally, 5.4 million of which were just added last year, the question that you need to ask is how many people would be interested in privacy protection, regulatory cover, and absolute and tax-free living, right? Even if you get 10% or 1%, that's 58,000 people interested in purchasing 480 blocks at $100,000 a piece, right? The probability of that being acquired by the people that actually can afford it is relatively on the high side. The incentive for them also to be able to do it is relatively on the high side. Most people think or are experiencing now that when they gain profit by buying and selling crypto, they realize later on they're taxed for it, right? And some countries tax you at what, 30%, 40% in some cases.
Yep.
But if you go through the system on post-tax income, you're taxed zero.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's the only token that actually also saves you from potential tax exposure on your future income as far as crypto is concerned. So it solves a lot of issues for the individual, and it solves a lot of pain points that we're all facing today. And that's the goal of the project. It's how to deliver on exactly what the technology was intended to give you in the first place.
Yeah, I know. Many of our listeners, I don't know who has different views from mine, but I like to hear this tax-free stuff. It's music to my ears. So Could you tell us more about what is Oz Living and what are its benefits? Because we were talking now about the business side of it. So let's talk now about the living side of it. Could you tell us more about how it works and what are its benefits?
Okay. So Oz Living is a way of living where I don't need to live in a specific country to avail of those benefits. See, the difficulty is like let's say I move to a country like El Salvador, right? Or like Puerto Rico, for instance. I'm an American, I want to move to Puerto Rico, right? If I move to Puerto Rico, I have to stay there for a specific number of days in order to receive the tax credits that are promised to myself. But that doesn't make any sense because I don't know about you, but being locked into a country kind of feels like being in prison in some ways, right?
Yeah.
I can't leave the country, otherwise I will be penalized for it. So what does that look like if I'm locked in? What this gives is, for one, you gain residency in a country without having to live in the country, right? So for the amount, should your value reach a certain staking value and you stake it, you apply for residency, and the residency status is on an indefinite basis as long as your token stays staked. That's one side. The second side to it is you are living, you effectively are split into three parts. So think of yourself right now, you're thinking, okay, I'm a human being and I'm earning income and I'm buying properties, I'm selling property, I'm selling assets, I'm buying assets and I'm selling assets, right? But the reality there is that you can split yourself up into those three parts. Me as a human being doesn't have to be me as an income earner and me as an asset holder. The latter two can be put under a corporation that is registered under a tax-free regime in order to allow me to live tax-free, right? Or at least a reduced tax life, you know? And that's possible. The thing is, a lot of high net worth individuals are already experiencing that. But
Yep.
the question is, why can't you and I experience that, right? And it's got to be something as simple as just acquiring the tokens and staking it. Because if I have to go through a US law firm, go through the process of seeking the right special economic zone, and then going to the area or the zone itself, hiring a law firm to provide me an assessment, doing risk analysis, that exercise alone is around $50,000, you know, on the average. So I'm in the hole for 50,000. I have to be worth far more than that. In this case, you're actually paying for zero fees. The service is already inclusive once you stake the asset. And the asset stays intact with nothing removed from it for the duration of your staking period, right? And the fees that you pay in order to have your single person corporation under tax-free regime with a bank account and with a crypto wallet, and the fees that you pay for your residency status is actually free. It's waived. So freedom in this case is not bought, it's granted.
Yep. Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah, and as a member of Asgardia, because I applied for a citizenship in Asgardia, this sounds way more interesting, because that's just something that is for fun. But this is a different approach, and certainly giving you a freedom that that was promised with blockchain. And we always, even with our conferences, we don't like approaching the blockchain just from the cryptocurrency side, because many are doing that, just focusing on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, because there's a lot of value in blockchain which hasn't been basically not even approached by many of the companies that are on the blockchain. So here's an interesting question. Why would businesses and individuals want to become residents of Oz?
Well, first is you don't
besides
need to
of course besides of course the tax-free living and compliance.
What other benefits are there?
Yes,
that's the question, right? Okay, so let's look at other things such as NFTs. Let's look at metaverse. Let's look at all those things, right? And these are things that are trends that have occurred lately, and it's cool. It's something that we want to be able to engage and be part of, right? But where's the value in an NFT if you can completely copy the existing code and create millions of other NFTs with slight differences, but effectively it's just like millions of other copies with different rarity ratings. Where's the value in that, right? Second is, okay, metaverse, right? So you're buying digital land. I can't live in it. I can't hold it. And it can be made millions of times over. And I'm hoping that someone is just going to buy it in the future, right? And other games or gaming companies are just going to copy the same concept or idea, and they already have their communities. What's the value of it when these big players start coming in, right? So the way we look at it is there has to be an underlying value in everything. Because we already have engaged specific special economic zones that grant you these benefits, then the next step there is to provide real value to the metaverses that we create. So one of the projects that we have is to metaverse enable real property, right? In order to provide credit to that property and in order to add value to that property. And there are ways by which you can purchase an NFT, right, prior to it being released to the public with underlying value behind it. So just think of it this way, okay? Right now, I'm in my room, right? If I wear my AR, VR goggles and I look around, I'm like, okay, I can see this place as just a regular room, or I can see it as maybe a sports bar. I have another version that might be it's a nature park or something like that, right? But each of these versions has a specific value attached to it. Now, the way properties are being built in the special economic zones that we operate out of have allowed us to be able to build infrastructure on property. Now, the way that works is if you have space, there are many versions of that space. So you have the Physiverse, that is the actual land itself and the actual building structure. Then you have the base metaverse that lays claim on the Physiverse, right? And then you have multiple layers on top of that that can be built. Now, each layer has value of its own, depending on who it is that owns the property. So let's say I'm someone that people follow. Let's say Zoltan, right? You have followers, people enjoy your company, they want to be able to interact with you, and they want to have some connection of some sort, right? Now, if you purchase your property, but your property has 4, 5, 10 digital properties that are built on top of it, these people can purchase that and have time with you in your home, right? Except it's a digital version of your home. So that is our NFT metaverse execution out of the special economic zone that we are currently operating out of. And that's for release quite soon.
So it makes it very attractive. So everyone, forget about
Estonian,
forget about Estonian residency and stuff like that. This is the future. So yeah, we were talking about the Philippines and the special economic zone. Could you tell us more about the Freeport area of Bataan, the FAB?
FAB.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at it from the bigger picture. There's 5,400 special economic zones globally.
Yeah.
And 500 plus of those special economic zones actually exist in the Philippines.
Wow.
Next to China, we are the second largest holder of special economic zones globally.
10%.
China has around 1,200.
That's almost
10%. It's quite huge. And so this is the most ideal place to actually start this kind of project. Now, the Freeport area of Bataan is the oldest and one of the largest special economic zones, with the ability of the entire province participating in it. So in reality, it's expandable to around 1,300 square kilometers in size. To give you some context, that's almost the size of Rhode Island in the US.
Yeah.
It's twice the size of Singapore, right? And it's strategically located right beside Metro Manila.
Oh, okay.
There's also a bridge that's being built right now. Its completion is around 5 to 6 years. And that bridge is going to cut travel time from 4 hours to 35 minutes. Right?
Oh, wow.
So it's also strategically close to the Belt and Road, which makes it a center for trade. So a lot of the movement from Metro Manila is going to be moving into this area. Aside from the fact also that Metro Manila is highly congested. It's right now, average car speed is 7 kilometers per hour. You can actually walk faster, But the Freeport area of Bataan is 95% less people than Metro Manila. So there's a lot of space there for expansion, right? So it's ideal in that. And it's ideal also in terms of property value, which is very low at the moment, has the lowest crime rate, the highest literacy rate in the country. So there are a lot of benefits actually of the space itself, but you don't need to live there. That's the cool part. If I stay a specific amount, I can receive residency in the Philippines and I can live anywhere in the Philippines. If my corporation is set up here as part of my staking package, then I can live a completely tax-free life for a specific period of time, right? Should I get approved for on KYC?
All right, and it's probably dear to your heart as being a local.
Well, okay. The larger picture here is, see, the way our token structure works is it allows for an unlimited number of special economic zones to participate thereafter. So essentially around 80% or 20% of remaining token supply can be sold to provide funding for additional participating eco zones, and also allows for treasury to be locked in for that particular special economic zone. So there is incentive for other special economic zones to participate. The larger goal here is complete portability of residency and business operation. So what does that mean? So right now you reside in, what country are you in right now?
In Romania.
Romania. Okay. Yeah. So I'm in the Philippines.
Far away.
Yeah. Some people might be in the US, some people might be in Taiwan, some people might be in China, wherever that is, right? But nothing stops your government from imposing on you 40%, 50% tax. They can do that. And you need to pay that, right? Nothing stops them from locking you inside your building to say, hey, you got COVID, I'm going to lock you in, and you can't do anything about it. There are some countries that do that, right? So,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And there are some countries that say, hey, all your crypto, it's now all illegal, right? And if you gain or whatever profit you make, I'm going to tax you 50% to 60%. They can do that, right? But what options are you left with? But if you have multiple special economic zones participating, the only thing that you need to do now is unstake your tokens and restake it in another special economic zone, right? And you can gain residency and business operation there. Effectively, you now have portability of residency and business operation by simply unstaking and staking your token. That's freedom.
Yeah, and it's fair. And
yeah.
So hopefully our listeners understand this. And so if you want to get away from COVID restrictions, taxes that are imposed on you without any logical thinking behind it, just like that, you might want to consider the Oz.finance, and you might want to consider Oz Living. Yeah. Am I right, Jin? So are there any other Oz's that I forgot? Because I know there are many projects within the Oz sphere.
And I have to state, though, it's not absolute. People are thinking, okay, it's absolute privacy, absolute zero regulation, right? And absolute zero tax. That's not the case, because those are there to give you specific benefits. Yeah. You can't not disclose your information. You still need to disclose some, but you don't need to indiscriminately disclose all, such that everybody uses your information. There are privacy protections that you're given in these special economic zones. Second, it's not absolute, regulatory cover. There is some regulation to keep the peace, right? But enough to be able to give you the freedom to do what you need to do. Then the third is, it's not absolute. You get zero tax for a 5-year period, depending on the zone that participates. But right now it's a 5-year zero tax, and it's a 5% flat tax thereafter. So it's negligible, but what it does is, through this minimal tax payment, you're still able to maintain peace and order. There's a security force and there is infrastructure that is maintained for your benefit, right? So it's a good balance between the two, and it's sanctioned by the country, right? It's an existing model that's been there for the past 25, 30 years. The only difference here is it's now simplified. The requirement from being several million, now it's just a couple of hundred, it's $100,000 or less, right? And the process by which you gain residency is through investment. And because the token is recognized as an investment, it's the simplest and easiest way for you to be able to gain that type of living, which we call open zone living or Oz living.
Okay. So before we wrap this up, I would like to ask, what's next in Oz?
Well, actually, the next couple of months is going to be really exciting because it's taken us around about 6 months of going around country to country, introducing the product. But what we've been discovering is that there are countries that are very difficult to execute in because of the regulatory requirements imposed on its citizenship, right? An American has particular difficulty in availing of these benefits, right? Because they're taxed based on citizenship. It's far more complicated than most people think, okay? However, we have engaged multiple law firms who actually have turned out to be our partners, and we've structured specific programs for either Americans, Canadians, Japanese, and the like, that is now bespoke per country, that allows them to be able to obtain Oz living, okay, in full disclosure of their government. And it is verified and approved by legal teams and lawyers in the respective countries.
That's a lot of exciting things coming up then.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
All right. So, any parting words?
Well, I'd like to invite everybody to come to Oz.living.com, Oz.finance, to be able to have a look at what we got. We're going to be going around the US by the end of this month, and we're going to be conducting multiple Ask Me Anything webinars in the coming months. But if you'd like to be able to explore more about what it can give you and what Oz Living is about, join our Telegram group. You can find it on our website, and you can just support us in any way.
Okay, so Jin, it was nice talking to you, and then it was very refreshing to hear about your project. And thank you so much for everyone for joining us. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to receive more of such intelligent small talks, because we don't like to focus on being very headachy once you finish listening to our episodes. So thank you everyone for joining. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining. Be sure to check back next week for the next HIPTHER Talks and subscribe on Amazon Music, Overcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, and Pandora.